Hear you. Hello, this is Anand here.
Okay, hi Anand. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Anju?
Good, thank you. Hold on for a second, please. All right, great. So this is our third class, and how are you guys feeling now? Next week is your exam, isn't it? All ready?
Yeah, can we postpone the exam?
No, I think you guys are so ready that you don't even want to do the mock exams, right? Only one person has attempted it.
Yeah, you're saying that we are ready. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I thought, let us go into the mock exams, the questions that I've asked you. Okay.
Yes.
Somebody has got, I think, another device or whatever because I can hear myself.
Is it the microphone?
Yeah, now it's fine. No, I think Dave, can you get your mic on mute? Maybe Kalidas as well, if you can put your mic on mute. So, guys, what I wanted to do was basically come up with some scenario. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time in these first three mock exams giving you kind of a full scenario. So I want to just, whatever the wording that comes in, these are the key questions that will be asked. Right? So in scenario one, for example, what we're asking is, well, there is an opportunity for the company to invest in a project, and this project is due to a change in legislation. That is the reason behind it. And I've said, well, it's X amount of millions. Discounting factor is given, right? I've deliberately left as X percentage because I want to discuss that as well. And net present value, it can be a positive or negative. So I want to debate about that, and then discuss on whether it is an opportunity for wood. If a negative NPV, how can this be turned around? We need to explore this a bit more. And how will this project be classified as a strategic imperative? Right? So I want us to basically first start discussing what models. Now, very quickly, when you read the scenario, there would be something saying, well, I'm going into a new project. This is the DCF, NPV. What are the key models that you will be using? So those are when you're structuring your answer, in the first 1 minute, you need to come up with some of the models, right? So that you know you're going to incorporate these models into your answer. What would you bring in here? Anyone?
Anju, which slide we are looking at, or is which?
I'm sorry. I have not shared my screen with you. Sorry. Let's This is the first mock that I have put it on our learning management system, but I am going to share my screen with you. 1 second, please. You should see it in a while. Can you see?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. So, as I said, this may be one of the questions that you may get about a new project. It may be a new technology project. It may be an investment, right?
Anju, I cannot see the screen. It's a bit doesn't show anything.
Okay. What about the others? Can you see, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
See any
Right,
presentation.
okay. Deep, can you see now? Is it clear for you?
Can see it, yes.
Fine.
The
So,
presentation, it's just like a blank slide for me, blank. That shows the dashboard. Right?
On top you can see scenario, and beneath scenario is written whatever is there.
can you see that part, Deep?
It's small. Okay, let me. Yeah. Okay. Can. I have to just.
All right.
Increase.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. What I'm emphasizing here is within the first couple of minutes, first 1 minute, I want you to come up with the models that you will be using.
We can use Porter's generic strategy where this project might help us, whether it is going to be a differentiation or a cost benefit or a focused approach.
Okay. Anyone else?
SIF plus X.
Right. Okay. Good. Yes. Another one?
What was this? What was the one?
SAS plus S.
Okay.
And what's another one? What are some of the others that you can use?
ANSOF.
Right. Why would you be using ANSOF?
Has markets and new fleets also.
Okay. So we're currently we've got 3 models that you guys have stated. One is disturbance guide. Can you just mute your mic? Right. So there are 3 models that you guys have come up with. One is Porter's generic strategies. One is ANSOF. One is SAS model. What about Mandelow's matrix? Would you be including that?
Yes, because it is a requirement due to a legislation which is impacting. Okay.
Right. Yes. So one of the key things here is that we've identified within the first 1 minute the technical models that we have to use, and then we straight away put in the other factors. You look at the other factors that you need to consider, right? One of the things is you can go into the discounting factor and talk about the discounting factor given. So the discounting factor given in this case could be 8%, 10%, or 5%, right? What analysis would you bring into this?
Still,
How would you analyze? So what I'm trying to do is, as soon as there is a discounting factor given, I'm going to argue about that as well. Either to say yes, it is in line with the economy and the environment that we're in, or it is not. Right? We also need to consider this project is happening in Emlyn or somewhere else. Okay? So those are some of the things that you need to consider. Again, there's a lot of disturbance. If you can mute your mic? Yeah, thank you. So what we need to consider is, even though there is a discounting factor given, so most probably what happens is they're not going to ask you to calculate, okay, certain things, but they will calculate it and give it to you, and you need to analyze it, right? So in that context, you need to talk a little bit on the discounting factor given as well, okay? And if it is a positive NPV, what would you say there? If it's a positive NPV, what are the factors that you can bring into this stage?
The project can be accepted.
Right. But they're only looking at, yes, go on.
Since it is positive, it means that it contributes to the share, and it adds to the value to the shareholders.
Right.
It depends on what the DCF is. Now, we know that, I mean, there is a minimum dividend, because these guys have been paying dividend, and so long as my discounting factor is higher than what the company is making right now, and after that, if it's able to make a positive NPV, then we should accept it, because then it would be adding to what the company is already making, what Wood is already making. I mean, if it is, if my DCF is lesser than my rate of return, or my rate of investment right now, the profit that I'm making, then we need to take a call whether we need to take something which is giving me a lesser profit, or use that money somewhere else.
Right. I like that argument, the way you put it across, because you're comparing against something that the shareholders are getting right now, as well as a project that they're going into, and what kind of return they would be getting. So again, here we are not merely looking at the positive aspect of it. You need to compare, as well as you need to think of the non-financial factors and the financial factors. All right? Any other areas that you can pick on this?
See, but you have mentioned that the project is a requirement due to a legislation. So I'm not sure if whether the clients have any other options other than to go for a project. So if we, let's say, even if it's a negative, maybe for the benefit of our clients, we might have to go for it.
So what I have stated there is, project is a requirement due to a legislation which has an impact on their clients. Okay. So this project basically is because the clients need to be complied with an activity, whatever it may be. Okay. So Wood is one of the companies that can carry out this project. There might be others as well. Right. So because they're in this consulting space and they have other clients as well. Right. So the clients have an opportunity to go into any other company, but they may choose to go with Wood. Right? And another thing that I've stated there is, what if it's a negative NPV? How would you turn it around?
Is it possible to pass the extra cost to the client?
Or seek government grants?
Right. What else?
I mean, there could be a tax benefit for these, which can be taken off, those where we can use, these losses.
Yes. And also one of the things, you as a management accountant, you need to figure out what are the activities that are driving the cost for this project, right? So is there an opportunity for you to reduce this cost by maybe getting it done somewhere else or in a more efficient manner, right? So that's another area that you need to think about. You see, what are the activities that are driving the cost for this particular project? Right? Because, again, like one of you guys said, it is a requirement. It is a legislative requirement. for their clients. So they are in a very good position to basically go in and invest in this project because it's a good opportunity, right? However, if they see that the costs are prohibitive, they need to consider what are the activities that's driving, right? So again, we are touching on activity-based costing, right? So the CIMA would like when you mention the fact that we are looking at or we're trying to analyze what activities are driving the cost. Okay. Any other things that you guys will look into in this particular project? We have missed one important aspect. Anything else?
Is it the cost synergy?
Sorry?
Is it the cost synergy, like being taken over by both? The synergy of cost and saving in cost. So that's why sometimes you get acquisition done when there is a lot of cost synergy happening.
Right. So what you're saying is by Wood going into this project and then consulting to exploit so many clients, you're gonna actually get a benefit, that synergy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So when you take over an investment, I mean, when you make an investment, also look into is like, for example, the target has a cost of say 100 million, but with your existing infrastructure or existing cost base, you can actually that cost because you can actually bring in your cost. So in totality, actually, even if there is a negative NPV, as you mentioned,
Yes.
we are kind of a synergy, like because at the end of the day, it's an investment decision, right? So if it's a negative NPV, we see that there is a cost synergy which can be brought in that could be considered.
Okay. One of the things that we missed, none of you guys spoke about, is the risk, right? Always if you're going into a project, we always need to talk about risk, right? Even though they've not asked or mentioned about the risk, it is as a senior person in the company, you need to talk about the risks, and you need to say, how would it stand when you're looking into the risks of the whole enterprise, not only just this project, right? So, can somebody summarize and just let us kind of summarize this whole thing as to how you would provide a structure for this particular scenario? Now, we went through certain things. How would you structure it in 5 minutes if somebody can summarize it? Anybody?
The technical, in 1 minute, identify the technical models to be used.
Right.
And then you have to analyze each model to see which is relevant for this particular project.
Okay. So when you're analyzing it, you're just thinking what is the most suitable one, right? You're not writing it.
No.
Okay. Fine. Go on.
And then each aspect of this particular question, like the discounted cash flow, NPV, positive, negative, what are the pros and cons, what are the opportunities, what is the link of this to the concepts that we have identified earlier.
Right.
The risk and the costing, the costing being one of the activities that we have identified in this. If there are any similar activities that needs to be brought into the picture.
Yes.
Most important, always consider risk.
Correct. correct. Another thing that you can also mention in a couple of sentences is the advantage and disadvantages of the NPV model. Okay, because you're using NPV model, and of course it has its advantages, disadvantages, just in a couple of lines. You don't need to go into great depth. You mention that, right? Another thing that you need to mention at the end is your conclusion and recommendation. Okay, so that's in a nutshell for when it comes to a project. This is what you have to do, right? So one of the most suitable models that can be used would be SAS plus S, right? Mandela's matrix. Okay, because you need to talk about you need to talk about the stakeholders as well. So most appropriate would be these two that you can use in this kind of a scenario. Okay, any questions?
Anju, I missed you on the first because the voice broke down. One was Mandela's matrix. What was the other technical this?
The SAS plus S model.
Okay.
So always, if there is a project, we're talking about suitability, acceptability, feasibility plus sustainability, right? Always. If you have more, if you think change management is something that is that you need to talk about here, you can bring Lewin's change management model as well. For example, if you're using something like going into an investment, IT investment, Lewin's change management model is quite useful, right? Questions?
Nope.
In this case.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry. In this case, how can we bring the customer impact, the client impact into the answer?
Right. I'm gonna leave it someone else to answer. Anybody else?
The whole project is being done for the clients, because of the legislation.
Mm-hmm.
So the major impact will be on the client.
And we also said that we're going to analyze the model, right, which is Mandela's matrix, right? So then we are looking at the stakeholders there as well. So then you will bring in the stakeholders' view and their requirements.
A high power, high interest.
Yes. And remember, there might be a controversy here where the project may be beneficial for the clients, right? But may have quite a negative impact, or there's a legislation which may have quite a negative impact to the shareholders because of the amount of investment that has to go in, right? So as a result, you may not have sufficient funds to give out as dividends the next year, right? So in this context, you need to balance out how you're going ahead with this investment, okay? If you get a controversial situation like that, where there is two competing priorities, and which may happen most of the time, how would you manage that? So one is compelled to, not me as a company compelled, but the client have to go in and do this activity because it is a requirement by the legislation. However, if me as a company go into this investment, and which is quite significant, it's going to impact my dividends to the shareholders. How will you manage that?
Maybe propose a joint venture where both the wood and the client do it together, because it doesn't make sense so long as the client needs it. At the same time, wood might be the only company who's able to do it for them. So it wouldn't be. I couldn't call it a win-win situation, but the best case scenario.
Right. Any other options?
Consultancy. No? We only do the consulting. We only do the consulting part.
Right. So there is some investment that needs to happen. Who's going to do that?
Because it is imperative on the part of the clients to do it, so they have to do it. We only bring in our expertise.
Well, what about the others? What do you think? Now, that's a good point you brought up, and I want to go into it further. But what do you think? What about the other guys? What do you think? 1 second, one of the students is trying to get in. Hello? Hello? Sorry. So you mentioned we are going to tell the clients, you go and invest. I will do the consulting part. I want some response from the other students. What do you think about this?
On personal experience, we have had this issue where we allowed one of the clients to, and we sort of became project managers. We ended up creating a competitor. So I personally wouldn't be an advocate of that, because most of the time we generally burn our fingers by becoming consulting. We are basically encouraging competition.
Right. What about the others? What do you think? What do you think? Well,
one more advantage will be this one. See, one more advantage will be if it's a new market and we always wanted to go strategically into this market, and we're very hesitant about what is in store. This will be a good opportunity to test it out.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I would look at it and say, I really would not want the client to go and invest, right? And imagine from a client's perspective as well, if I have, let's say, 50 clients or 100 clients, right? Each one of them have to go and invest in this project. So from that angle, it's not the most efficient way of doing this activity at all. You should not mention that, right? But however, I liked what another student mentioned. Let's create a joint venture between the company and the client, right, together. So you put in an X amount of funds into this project, because we have the expertise at Wood. We will bring in that expertise as well as the consulting aspect and deliver the whole project. We will not expect each of the clients to go in and have their own project. If you said that, so Reggie, I think that was coming from your mic. I don't know. I put everyone's mic on mute. Okay? Can you hear me now? Everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what I said was, if you mentioned that in your exam, that would not go very well. Okay, because the examiner would fail you because you are stating something which is not really practical and it is not the most efficient way of doing things. So be careful. I'm glad you brought it up. I'm not picking on you, but really it's not the most efficient way of doing things. Okay? Any other questions? Right. Let's go into the second one, where I said, what factors would you take into consideration when carrying out a customer analysis? Right. Now, these guys have quite a few customers, and let's say they have a portfolio. They have a good number of customers, and they expect this number to grow. They are going to become the world leaders. That's what they want to be. So in order to become world leaders, you need to have really good systems, processes in place, and you will have quite a few customers who are, maybe if it's individuals who are quite wealthy, or if you're talking about customers who are, for example, like pension funds or other corporations or other governments. So you're talking about corporate customers, right? How would you carry out the customer analysis? Any views?
I mean, we break it down by into large, because we have different types of customers. One is the government itself, and then we have the forest authority, then we have companies, we have private individuals. The way we want to tackle each of them would be separate. There's not much of leeway when we start dealing with government or the forest authorities, because they are the ones who might be dictating the terms, and it would be a risk for us if we try to change the terms. Where we have some level of flexibility would be with the individuals and the private companies. So in that case, I mean, that's where we try to secure as much payment as possible, because cash flow is important. But at the same time, we would want to develop the relationship also. So.
Right. Any other views?
Can also, since they're looking at expanding internationally and becoming world number one, the customers can also be segregated geographically, because the cultures will be different, and each country will, I mean, the customers or the companies or the government in each country will have its own way of, its own, what should I say, its own characteristics.
Correct.
Risks, right, valid point.
Yes, exactly.
So, few things we need to consider here, right? We need to consider how much revenue each one of these guys are bringing in currently, and the potential. Okay, so two things: current and potential. And we may also consider in the potential some of the products that we have that we're planning on bringing in. Okay, we've not even thought about, we've not implemented them. We are thinking of bringing them. So they could fall into the potential, right? The second aspect, you guys quite correctly mentioned the different structures, organizations, the kind of governmental entities, non-governmental entities, corporate, individuals, right? Third being geographical, right? Because the taxations in different countries you need to consider as well, right? And the cultures of different countries vary, okay? So you are talking about quite a number of customers, and you need to understand their needs, right? That is the key here. Right? You need to understand how we are going to service these customers currently as well as in the future, right? What model will you use here? Right. So can you elaborate on that?
We'll have to segment the customers into a large and small,
Mm-hmm.
and the cultural issues associated with the different geographies that they are based out of.
Mm-hmm. So what I will be looking at is a model, something similar to that of the value chain, right? The value chain is predominantly for manufacturing organization, but basically the principle is I need, as wood, I need to fit into my customer's value chain, right? What they value and think as the most important thing for them in their business, right? So in that perspective, I may kind of try to understand what are their key objectives. Why are they investing with us? Why are they working with us? What is their objective, right? So those are key things that you need to understand. And then why would you do a customer analysis? Is to see how best that you can service the customer. Not only that, but also the current and future profitability, right? And for example, if you see that you have quite a big customer base, let's say, coming up, and you see the potential in Africa, right? And you're based in Europe, okay? So your whole org structure may need to change as well. So currently you're operating only in Europe. But if you think there is quite a lot of potential customers coming out of Africa, right? You may need to start thinking of moving the organization, part of the organization, or starting a new organization, or partnering with a similar organization in Africa, right? Or partnering with a complementary kind of service organization in Africa, right? That might be the way to go, because you need to have somebody who knows what's going on the ground, okay? Because you are in Europe, you don't know anything about these countries in Africa. You know the technical know-how, but then there is much more that you need to know when you're working in different countries, right? And we've said identify the key risks pertaining to customers. What options are there to manage them? How would you do that?
We try to secure the payment. At the same time, any exchange risk, we would try to hedge them. Okay,
so we need to now, when you're structuring your answer, again, you need to identify what are the risks pertaining to customers, correct? So just go on jotting down, these are the 5 or 6 points related to the customers. One you said was forex risk. The next one you mentioned was payment. Third one? Anyone else?
The taxation structure of the country.
Yeah, taxation structures. Anything else?
Legislation.
Yes. Sorry, you broke
Performance
up.
risk.
Right. So performance risk, as in, can you elaborate? Yeah, can you elaborate?
Any potential risk relating to performance of the obligation due to this change?
Mm-hmm.
About cultural differences, like.
Correct. It's a good one. It is a risk, right? So you need to, you can't, when you're operating worldwide situation, you need to consider those risks as well. Cultural risks become quite important.
Correct. And also regional regulatory requirement, like
Yes, yes. Right?
Doesn't it depend on the type of service that we're providing? Now, if we are just selling our wood or something to our customer, it is fairly straightforward that we could manage it. But what if a wood wants to manage the forests in a foreign country? You're looking at movement of assets there. You're talking about taxes. You're talking about maybe setting up another entity in itself to manage the situation. So
that's exactly what you should have added in your custom analysis. Right? When you're carrying out a custom analysis, you're selling different products, and that is exactly right what you mentioned. So you may tackle different customers in different ways depending on the type of products that they are buying from us, products or services that they're buying from us. Yeah. Any other questions here? So again, just to summarize, okay, if you're doing a custom analysis, you will look at what products they're buying, what potential products that are there for them, the current revenue, the future revenue, the geographic location, what type of entity are there, a government entity, a private company, public company, right? And then we looked at the risks related to these customers, right? You look at forex risks, then you look at the contract risks themselves, operational risks, cultural risks, regulatory risks, taxation, right? So when you understand these things about a customer, you are in a better position to work with this customer and to offer different products or how you're going to manage them as well. And for example, if you think that one particular customer is giving you only, let's say, 5% of your total revenue, but due to their complex taxation structures and legislations, etc., you're spending 90% of your time, right? Now is the time you need to make a decision on how best to manage such customers, right? Because then you need to basically make a decision to say, is it worth for me to work with this customer, or should I let it go? Right? Especially if you are going to become the world leader, it is you will not be in a position to work with all and sundry. Right? You will have to choose your customers that you're going to be working with. Any questions here before we go to the third one? Right? Okay, so let's go to the last question here. There has been a fatality in Emland forest. The root cause is still unknown. What would be the impact of this, financial and non-financial? What would be our key message that we would like to communicate to our stakeholders? Give reasons for providing the method of communication. Right. Straight away, what type of, what are the models that come into your mind?
Mandelow's matrix.
Yes. What else?
I mean, SWOT analysis, the weakness.
Okay, what else?
The pestle analysis,
I'm a bit puzzled with SWOT, but never mind. There are better models, that's the reason. What about ethics? would anybody think of ethics? Because there has been a fatality in Emland, right? So when there is fatalities, if there has been a fatality, if there has been a serious incident, there is a way to manage it. So let's start by saying, how can we go through this? But how would you structure it?
Should we assume that there is a fraud involved initially itself, or?
Fatality is somebody is dead, somebody has died.
Right. Okay.
We would want. The Woods public relations should release a communication saying that first thing, it has to calm down our stakeholders rather than some message going out which may not be true. We still know that the investigation, the root cause is still not known. So to ensure that people don't come to conclusions, it is better that the public relations team talk about it first and ensure that there are clean lines of communication between all the stakeholders.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? This is where they're testing your leadership skills, your people skills.
The compensation paid to the kins of the representatives of the person, how it is done, and how fast it is done, that depends on also.
Okay. Anything else?
That will be a part of social responsibility, CSR, part of CSR also. Social responsibility, that he looks after the employee also.
Company yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, if there is a disaster recovery plan,
yes,
how this particular incident is defined and what actions are required, and if it's there, then based on that, the actions need to be taken.
Correct. I like that word, disaster recovery.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a very nice word. Use it, right? Because we need to have that. So how would we structure is, now we come to a position where we say something really bad has happened, right? And when something like this happens, how would the organization react, right? So prior to the reaction part, you can mention, we are taking into consideration in this aspect that Wood has already got a disaster recovery plan in place, right? They have already have carried out the necessary training required by the authorities, right? Because when an issue happens, these are some of the key things that the investigators come and check. Have you carried out all the training that's required? B, is there a disaster recovery plan in place? The insurances are in place, right? So while a team needs to be looking at that, and the next part is immediately there has to be a crisis team meeting immediately, right, to say how would we communicate, right? Communication has to happen internally to the organization, right, as well as to your customers, your key suppliers, and of course the family involved first, right, and then to the media. So it kind of happens in a ripple effect, right? The closest people get communicated pretty fast, and then it goes to the media. But this has to be structured, and this should have been planned very well, right? Because generally, when companies face a situation like that, it is not at that time they think of the communication strategy. Okay, they should have thought about this communication strategy. They should have had simulations. All this need to happen. Okay, now I have in my previous company, oil and gas. Unfortunately, I have experienced something like this, where there were fatalities, and the way they communicated, this was fantastic, because before it got to the press, before anything happened, the general manager himself, he went to the location, saw really what happened, everything. Then he himself went and did speak to the families, right? Communicated with them immediately. Then they had an immediate communication with the employees of the company, right? So that any rumors are squashed, right? Especially the company like this, where you're in the stock exchange, okay? It is very, very important you handle it properly. Now, another thing would be they could also, instead of, whatever the cause may be, right? Whatever it has happened, we don't know still. So you have to go on updating the other stakeholders as to what is going on, what has happened, regular updates, right? And the impacted family, because of this individual's laws, they could have some CSR activity taking place at the same time. And this is what we did when the same thing happened in another company. So then the communication is quite transparent, as well as the organization is actively participating and getting the community, as in the employees, engaged in helping the family cope as well, right? Any other comments from people? So, sorry, before I get any comments from you.
Yeah, about the management commitment to avoid such kind of accident, avoid or minimize such kind of accident in the future.
Of course, yes. And that's why ongoing, you look at the updates, as well as then as soon as you get the final, you do the investigation, find out exactly what's happened, and then you need to do corrective measures immediately, right? That too needs to get communicated properly. This is the cause of it, and this is how we propose to mitigate it in the future. And in order for us to kind of manage the mitigation, we also need to involve the union, right? Because their involvement in this is important. Because if we, as let's say senior managers, sit in one corner and decide, okay, this has happened, therefore I'm going to decide these are the activities that I'm going to be doing to mitigate it. It may be the correct activities, but the unions will oppose it because they have not been part of that discussion, okay? So you always need to work with the unions as well, right? So if I look at it now from the ethical point of view, right, you bring in the CIMA ethics and then talk about it as well, right? If you look at it, let me just go into our slides. So we can bring our ethics into this and talk about how we have managed the situation in an ethical fashion. All right? We have shown our integrity. We have shown our professional behavior. Right? Because if there may be situations where, as you know quite very well, sometimes if an incident happens on site, it's hushed, right? So as to make sure that, the company's reputation is not tarnished or incidents are not brought up so that, again, in the eyes of different stakeholders or the shareholders, the company is seen as a company that has no incidents at all, which is pretty good for their reputation. So, or else there might be situations where managers are paid based on based on zero incidents happening on site. So what they would do is to basically not mention any incidents that happen unless, it's a catastrophic incident, correct? So in this case, again, this can come into your ethics question. So it is important that you bring this ethics diagram, right, and talk about how you dealt in this situation in a very ethical manner. Okay? Any questions from you guys?
Nothing from mine.
It's okay.
Will you be able to send a suggested answer?
Before the suggested answer, I would like you guys to actually attempt this, because I can send the suggested answer. I will be putting up a suggested answers, but really, if you do not write the answers, you will fail, right? Because it's of no use reading someone's answer. So I must say that when in the previous syllabus, I had a student who got world prize in P3. Okay, he got the world prize, but one of the key things that he did was I used to give him loads of questions and he used to answer. Right, any question he used to just, and it need not be, guys. It need not be very lengthy answers, right? The structure, put in the structure, and 10 minutes. Just write down, what are the key things that you're going to talk about, because it's the practice that will help you when you go into the exam, right?
Okay.
Because you guys came up with certain models which are not appropriate, right? You did not mention risks. I'm just saying things that you discussed today. Then nobody came up with ethics, which is an ethics question as well, right? So things like that, even though, when we discuss, you say, of course, yes, it's obvious, that the ethics should come in. But if you're not used to it, it's not, you're not kind of used to thinking about questions in such a manner, right? Even your first question, right? You can bring in ethics if it is appropriate, right? So, because one of the key things to, you need to know how to collect marks from CIMA. They are looking for, they want to see your ethical questions, or they may not ask you straight away an ethics question, but they want to know that you're very good in this aspect, right? You're quite sound in your this ethical scenario. So even though they have not asked you a question on ethics, if it's a project, talk about it if it is appropriate, right? So what I will be doing in the next class, which is on Friday, right? What I will go in to do is the industry analysis. I said I want to do the industry analysis. I did the questions this time because when I asked you guys to do a survey, in the survey, some of you guys had mentioned that they would like to do some questions, right? So that's the reason why I thought, well, let me bring in the questions. And it's a good juncture for us to look into the questions and answers, because it's high time you started doing these things as well. Mm-hmm. I have another three questions, full questions that I have given you there, and I'll be putting more during today and tomorrow. So I urge you to do these questions. Okay, I had only one person who's done these answers and provided an answer, so which is not pretty good. Okay, anything else?
Nothing.
Can you write just one question? Like, is there a structure by which we can give the answer? Should it be in a paragraph, or should we give bullet points, or?
Right. Paragraphs are better. Okay, because bullet points, if you're running out of time, of course, give it in bullet points. But paragraphs, a point. If you're talking about one particular point, let's say in the first question, you're talking about the discounting factor of X%. That can be one paragraph. If you're talking about the NPV, another paragraph. If you're talking about an opportunity, another one. Then you can talk about whether discounting factor or the NPV is the best way of analyzing, right?
Okay.
Correct. That should be another one.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? I have also put up some articles in our learning management system. So please do review them. And you don't need to kind of go into huge detail with this, but you need to get a good understanding, or, to at least try to skim through the article so that you get an understanding of what it is. Because when we go into the industry analysis, I think it is quite important that you get a view of this industry itself. So has anybody done an analysis or a competitor analysis of this wood industry?
No.
Has anybody been exposed to this type of industry?
No.
Really? But I must say, just going through the analysis, it looks like one of the best investments that we could make. The return around, between 16% to 20%. So it's a very good investment.
I mean, the P&Ls are pretty good.
Yeah, that is the P&L of the company itself, but the return to the shareholders, as well as return to, people who invest from a tax perspective, right?
Yes.
For those guys, so you can become invest in two sense. You can become a shareholder, as well as you can invest. You can be a client of theirs, right? So even in that sense, the return is pretty good.
How many questions will be asked in this exam? Like, here you have given 3 questions. Now, will it be based on a particular aspect of the analysis, or the case study actually?
Yeah, so there are 5 variants of 5, for different days, they'll give you different questions, of course. So that's why they've got 5 variants.
Okay.
And let's say one variant might be dealing with quite a bit of forex and more emphasis on FM, and maybe another variant, maybe the emphasis is more on another aspect, right? Whether it's ethics or projects
So the example on November 26th will have one of these variants.
Correct. Correct.
There will be 5 questions in total.
Not 5. There would be 3 questions.
3 questions. Okay.
Yes, but
Like
5
what you have provided.
variants. Yeah, 5 variants. 5 variants means in the different days they'll have different questions, sets of questions.
Okay.
So I might do the exam today, you might do it tomorrow, right? We both will not have the same questions, obviously.
Be 5 different questions. Different types of questions. 5 different types of questions on each day. Okay, understood.
Three questions in a paper, but they would be different on each day.
Understood.
Anju, this is Deep. So what is the total...
Any other questions?
Yeah, what is the... coming back to the structure of the exam, what is the total mark for this exam? Is it 150? And what is the passing percentage? Is there any indication from CIMA? What is the pass rate? Is it 60 or 53 point?
I must check the rates, the recent ones, and tell you how many have passed. I believe it is quite high, in the ranges of 65%. So it's not bad. It's not a case of people are it is that hard and people are not passing. So it is pretty good.
No, my question is what is the full mark for this exam? Is it 150 or 100?
No, it's not 100. It's not 100. I have to confirm the marks for you, but it's certainly not 100.
What is the passing percentage? Would you please?
I mean, the last time I wrote, it was the marks are for 50 and the pass is 25. Hello?
Hello. But they won't mark it out of 100, right? Because when I had the discussions with CIMA, they were saying, the total, they mark it differently. I'll get you guys the clear guidance on that and provide you a write-up. Yeah.
So there'll be 3 questions and 3 hours to answer those 3 questions, if my understanding is right.
Correct. There can be sections as well. So have you guys looked at the past papers? I urge you to look at the past papers as well, because that gives you there can be smaller questions within the first question. Okay.
Okay.
But make sure, so when there are smaller questions within the big question, right? You have to, when you're answering those questions, you have to make sure that you time your answer. Just because you know a lot about that particular subject matter does not mean that you have to write for half an hour when the timing is on the marks given is only 10 marks. Okay, so be careful. You're breaking up. Any other questions before we wind up tonight?
That's it, I guess.
Will you be sending a financial analysis as well?
Yes, I will send it. Before we finish off the sessions, I will send it.
Thank you.
All right?
Okay.
So if you guys can do the questions, that'll be great.
Yeah, we'll do the questions.
Sure.
All right then.
And can you send the video recording of the class, please?
Yes, I will send today's one. The other one I have already sent. I've sent the YouTube.
Yeah, but Anju, it says it's a private video. So how do we access a private video?
No, it is private, but I have invited you. So, were you guys able to, did anyone access it?
I tried today because it came from James, but I couldn't access both of them, part 1 and part 2.
Right, okay. Again, all
Able to
right.
access it.
So nobody accessed it?
No, I was able to access it.
It said that it was a private video and we were not able to access.
Yeah, I had the same problem.
Let me check again. So the ones who are having a problem in trying to access, if you can WhatsApp me so I know you guys have a problem.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Okay then.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.